We're excited to be here this morning, and I'm happy to have our guest, Kim Hoffman. And Kim probably needs no introduction, but I count her amongst my friends, and she has had the opportunity to work across many sectors in mortgage, from origination, secondary, and has now moved from the lender side of the equation and having run operations for many years to the vendor side of the equation, and amongst things, the QC side. And so not only does she understand how a loan is manufactured, but now she sees what works or doesn't work once a loan is sold. So Kim, welcome. We're so happy to have you. Thanks for joining.
Thank you, Brooke, and thank you for asking me to participate on this. And I just have to say, I'm so proud of you and all the work that you're doing in this space.
Thank you. I count you amongst those that are often my sounding board for the things that I pull together or say, wait, is this kind of crazy? What do you think? So thank you for being part of this journey. Absolutely. So today our word is automation. And as we know, we choose words that have the letters AI in them, but are not necessarily only AI. And the context of the word series is to take these words and level up with the lens of AI, so to speak. So as we use the terminology automation, it can be used in both traditional forms as well as the evolution of the AI side. Let's jump into it and tell me, what do you think when you hear the word automation?
Well, first of all, about, I don't know, maybe 10 years ago, I heard Jonathan Core, who at that time was the CEO of Ellie Mae, say that, one of the things that was problematic for the industry was that every time we had a cycle, we applied human spackling. Are we always hiring up, overworking people and laying off people? And at that time, I was doing some work with robotic process automation. So when I think of automation, I think of, for our industry, the ability to eliminate those violent cycles of hiring up, hiring down, et cetera, and really putting in through technology processes that run themselves. And I'm really working in that space now in my business. So I've been kind of experimenting with this for about 10 years. And I have seen what AI can do in terms of automation and machine learning as well. So I see hope when I think about automation, Brooke. I really do. And I'd say that because as somebody who's been on that side of hiring up, overworking people to death when we're, in these violent cycles and then having to lay them off, that's a terrible thing for our industry, for our consumers, for our employees. And so automation means hope to me, and the ability to have core employees and processes that work without employee intervention and still hit my pillars of transparency, accuracy, and speed. And that's what I think of when I think of automation.
I think that's awesome. And I love the fact that this isn't, I do a talk on 4-letter words related to AI. Hype is one of them, but hope is one of them as well. And how do we take the hype to make it truly hope and apply those principles that you've just described as trustworthy AI? Because at the end of the day, with the evolution of evolving AI, trust is a key component, whether we're talking trust amongst our employees or trust among the consumers that we're introducing it to. Again, each of those considerations is slightly different depending on the use case and how AI is deployed. But I think you also bring up a great point in that not everything has to necessarily be the newest iteration of artificial intelligence. There are still very solid forms of traditional AI that very well may be the right answer for a given need that's presented. So can you share with us what's your experience because of your strong foundation in traditional AI and what you see happening today as you go out into the market and look at potential solutions?
Yeah, so I've been working with robotic process automation and machine learning, as I said, for 10 years. And, that's doing a lot of rote tasks. But today I still use robotic process automation to pull all my reports, right? It's robotic process automation is just an automation of something, technology we created to pull our reports and eliminate a human having to go out and do that. But now as I look,
Very task-based.
very task-based, very repeatable, doesn't need to think about what's happening, right? It's just very rote work. And so I still see that as something that's necessary for the industry. But where I am truly excited, and you know that I spend a lot of my personal time researching and reading and taking classes on AI. I think agentic AI, I mean, for me and what I do and my background in operations as well, I really believe that agentic AI has maybe the first time since Garth Graham said, the greatest technology advancement the industry has had was dual monitors. Well, when I think about agentic I really believe that that's where we're going to see a massive amount of lift in our industry, and where I am very excited. And I have a slide in my strategy deck, which, by the way, you don't know anything about, but I'm presenting to my team and my boss this week. And there's a slide that says automate everything that's automatable. And that is
Well,
my goal.
so let's talk about that for just a second in the automation as it relates to the swing to the hygienic component of things. Because you understand the methodologies behind even the RPA or the more traditional processes, at the end of the day, if the data isn't aligned with what needs to be done, same principles apply, garbage in, garbage out. When it comes to the agentic side of the equation and it's autonomous,
Mhm.
how much more attention or how much more focus do you place on the variance and guardrails that are needed from a traditional form as compared to the guardrails that you'll put in place relative to agentic AI and the autonomy associated with them?
Well, I mean, for me, when I think of agentic I think of it as basically kind of a digital person, right? It's performing that same type of work as a person would do. And so
Right.
when I set up mine, and we are, the person becomes the QC, right? The person becomes the quality control, the governance and oversight. But to your point, whether the data is dirty for AI or for a human, it's problematic, right? So the data has to be, I mean, the data is input and an outcome can't be correct if the data is not correct. There's no question about that. That's for AI and it's for humans. In my current role as president of Mortgage Connect Risk Solutions, Brooke, I take data and documents and I confirm those. So today, a lot of people in my organization are doing the stare and compare. Is the data in the data field accurate to the document being the source, the governing source of it, right? And you'd be surprised how often it is not. And so I have people doing that stare and compare today. We are working that we will use agentic agents to do the stare and compare and surface the discrepancies, and then people will check those discrepancies. But where the data is correct between the field and the document, somebody doesn't have to go back and re-verify that. But that's
So there,
hours of work for a human and seconds of work for agentic AI. And if you think about that, whether you're applying agentic AI in risk-based solutions like I am, or in my past in manufacturing of the loan, our people spend way too much time mining for data, right? And I can just surface that.
there's a quote from early 2000s that says data is the new oil. And then what many have done with taking that quote, because that was true at the time, right? Even more true today. So not everything is new, but the next piece of it is that expert data is the new fuel. What you've just described to me is the transition that's occurring from traditional AI to evolving forms of AI, not only in the utilization and the customization of the data piece of things. But in addition to that, where agentic AI speaks to autonomous, but it doesn't have to be completely autonomous. You've just described a keeping a human in the loop for that leveling up, that things are surfaced through evolving AI with computer vision, for example. So the accuracy of what may have been done with RPA in the past is much more accurate in relationship to evolving computer vision. And once again, frees up that human to focus on the most important things, not necessarily validating everything because of those improvements that the technology has incorporated.
I think it's going to be very telling in our industry to see how AI today, processors, underwriters, they're all looking at data, they're all gathering data, they're all validating data, they're all verifying data. But if you think about that, that's really where they spend the majority of the time. A processor doesn't get to spend the kind of time they want ushering a borrower to the closing table because they're working through, 600 plus documents or 2,500 data fields. And then we wonder why the client or the borrower experience is so choppy. Using AI, I think, really redefines how production gets done and where
So
our people
let's
get
go
to
there.
go.
Let's go there for 1 second because you and I have had this conversation. You know how passionately I believe in redesigning workflows or
Mhm.
reimagining workflows. And I'm not suggesting that we can't start where we are because that helps foster coordination and comfort amongst our people. So it's okay to start where we are. But in the same token, at a leadership level, the opportunity and necessity to reimagine workflows based on using the newest technology as it's designed and based on its forte, so to speak. So, talk to me about what are you seeing there about layering AI over an existing process, which, quite frankly, for the reasons that you've described, could already be inefficient, as compared to reimagining what a workflow could be when you become more familiar with what the evolving technologies put before us.
I don't think that it makes sense to continue along the same processes that we have been working in for 30 years. Overlaying AI onto broken processes, stale processes that are super choppy, run as a dependency on the preceding or the next tasks makes sense when you can truly reimagine workflow today where everything is asynchronous and it's happening. Multiple things are happening in real time. But to be honest with you, that's been one of my biggest struggles as I proceed on my AI journey is getting my employees to think of it from a reimagined state, not from just taking my current state and adding AI as like a tool to it. I don't,
Think
as one who's been neck deep in our processes for, over 30 years, I would tell you we don't have great processes to manufacture loans. AI gives us a chance to really think differently.
And part of the way, and while I'm going to share I'm going to say what I'm going to say, I can tell you that there are multiple reports out now from McKinsey and BCG and all the big guys that will say that culture, that in order to see the true benefits of rapidly evolving technology, we need to address the culture as much as we need to address the tools that are being put in place. And that those that will do it most effectively will look beyond a tool and reimagine the internet as an operating system. So how do these variation of pieces play together and not necessarily individual tools, but as an ecosystem as a whole? So I think, again, I just happen to know you well enough to know that you are already, the fact that you're thinking about these things is already the opportunity to say, how can it be different and help bring your people along? Because it's, interestingly enough, it goes back to that trust, right? Like, people aren't going to do something that they don't trust. And it's an opportunity for a leader to show not only by example that you're using the tools, which I know you are, and in turn, how does that play through to help build their confidence as these systems continue to evolve? So,
Yeah.
final note, because as we know, right, like we're at our 15-minute mark. So, talk to me about something that you have done either at a personal or at the business level. How are you using AI for that's something that's really helped you? It can be fun or it can be practical.
I have two. Okay, so let's take the practical. One, I start with AI, and you might have been the person who said that to me. But everything for me starts with ChatGPT, Copilot, but it starts with AI. If I have a question, I don't sit and noodle on it for minutes trying to get it out of my head. I start with the AI. And whether it takes me to the end or it just gets me off the starting blocks, it has been remarkable to my own personal productivity. But a fun thing that I did was I was at an Astros baseball game and my favorite concession stand. It always takes about an hour to get, what it is that I want. So I go up there, I stand in line with the masses, and we're all stand there for like an hour. And by the way, it's like literally the opposite side of the stadium from where my seats are. So I actually during the game asked ChatGPT when the best time to go to this concession was to get what I wanted, and it said between the third and fourth inning. So anytime between the third and fourth inning. And so I thought, so I'll go and I'll try. I was the only person in line. So now you
It's
know why I see I
hallucinated, it gave you the accurate answer
well, because it's accurate answer, I was like, that's it. I'm asking ChatGPT everything before I do it.
because it reinforced, right?
And
And
absolutely gave me the answer that was right. And so I just
exactly.
I think it's for me, it's like having a personal assistant in my pocket.
So one of my favorite words to cover what it is you've just described is using AI as a co-thinker. So it's not a
Right.
matter of relying on AI to do our work for us. It's a matter of literally having an opportunity to have someone next to us to help us level up and do more with what it is we know, and then taking that to the next level. So
Yeah.
thank you for
I
joining me today, Kim.
I love it. I love our conversations, Brooke. You and I are, we're trying to figure out how to solve the world's problems with AI, and I love these conversations.
Well, I'm really grateful that you're able to join me today. Stay warm and look forward to talking with you soon. Thank you.
Thanks so much. Take care, Brooke. Bye bye.